Greetings. Today we're going to be talking about how I'm using automation to sell my automation. Here I created my first AI marketing employee. The task is quite simple. You're just going to go to Product Hunt, you're going to get the top companies that have launched today and then do outreach on them, right? The idea here is that I want to sell this tool that helps each company appear in AI searches. Long story short, this is an automation that I made through N8N and I demoed in this video. So I'm showing through an email that I sent to them, such as this one, how they can go from having no JSON LD to having one that can help them rank, which is essential for this modern day where AI searches are becoming the norm more and more, right? So let's get into this workflow. As I said, we're going to be using Product Hunt to find the launch data. Ultimately, we'll be getting a G sheet with the name of the business and the website that corresponds to that business. And we want to look through this list. Imagine you're the person doing this task. You wouldn't just take this information and process it all at once. You would go step by step, processing each business and sending outreach to each one of them, right? So we want to just codify that through N8N. And we're going to be doing basically then a scraping of each website, meaning going into each website, getting the content out of it, getting the relevant information that can then be used to figure out which industry they're in, and then ultimately also get the email, which is usually found in the footer, right? And then we're going to be getting the approval for the proposed JSON LD, the schema markup is also another term we use for it. And this is a typical email that I get as, let's say, the boss of this AI employee. And the AI employee starts off saying, "Boss, do you approve the following email body?" And it goes on showing me the exact email I would send, and it reads off quite nicely, right? Where it says, "Hi there, I saw your PH launch, and this is why this is important for you. Here's a video in case you want to look into it, and here's your before, and here's your after using this tool." And it's a clear pitch. Okay. And then finally, if I hit approve, it'll send an email which will look just like this, and eventually we'll get hopefully a lead. Let's go through the workflow step by step. Now, every workflow starts with a trigger. This is a very simple trigger. It basically means whenever I click on this button, the whole thing will execute. Okay. And we're going to be setting this node called set date, in which I have already pre-configured it to today's date, right? Such that if you do want a flexibility of going back a few dates and getting the Product Hunt launch data from previous dates, then you can do that. Okay. Now the next step is the fetching of the Product Hunt posts through their API. And here's how it works, right? You choose the method of post because you're making a call to their API, which in turn is going to return to you some data. But you need to pass to it a few credentials. So once you've configured the URL that you're making the call to, you don't have to set up authentication, but instead set up specifically the headers, and you're going to use the fields below where we're going to pass in the name authorization as it's expected through the header, and here we pass a bearer token. So never share with this bearer token. And ultimately we're setting up a user agent, which is basically code for who is visiting this website, right? And this is just like a standard way of saying, okay, the agent is like somebody that's using the Mozilla Firefox browser, and they're in a Windows 10 with this operating system, right? Ultimately, we're sending a body, which is basically, when you're sending like a message somewhere, like you don't want it to be like a blank message. You want to send inside of it, what are you talking about? What are you requesting from the person that you're sending a message to, right? And here we're sharing a query, right? And this query is something that you can just copy paste. It's really just don't mean to get too technical, but GraphQL query, which is just like the programmatic way of interfacing with an API and getting specifically what you want. And here's the expression, right? This is like a query where we have the posts that we're trying to extract 20 of them. Here's the query. We're going to be getting the posts, specifically the first 20, that were posted after midnight of a certain day and before the end of that day. And the edges here basically is like code for, okay, what information do I want? Which fields do I want from this particular, in a sense, table that I'm accessing, right? And I want specifically the name, the tagline, the description. The name is the business name, right, for the Product Hunt launch. The tagline is just their slogan, their first, few words. What do they do, right? Description, longer body, description, the website that they actually route you to check their service, and then the slug, which is basically the code that I can use later to refer to their product hunt launch. Okay, and that is it. So, we're going to be then executing this, and then we're going to be extracting this information, which we're going to be passing into the G Sheet ultimately. But before we do that, we need to resolve the website redirection. What this means basically is Product Hunt redirects you to the website after you click on the Product Hunt launch site. So let me show you an example. And what we see here is me running the extraction of the product's info code. And you have here a really nice table, right? But the website is what we want to ultimately extract. And you can see how we have a redirection here essentially, right? It just goes from Product Hunt to the ultimate website, but that's not a good URL to keep. Instead, we're going to be taking this over here and running a GET request. And we're going to get the full response from this GET request, ignore the response code, and we're going to get this output. You can see right here, this is just like a JSON array, right? Basically a bracket with a set of data inside, and the thing that we care about is the location right here, right? And that's why we're resolving the redirection. And ultimately, we'll be getting the information that we want, which is that URL. And we're also going to be getting a Product Hunt launch URL, right? Which is actually the slug attached to this prefix, such that in the future, when we want to follow up on Product Hunt with the email that we sent to get extra visibility, we can do that because we have that launch URL. Then you want to merge the outputs. That's just like basically a way of saying, okay, well, you have a set of data that you generated earlier, and you have another set of data that you're generating after this, extraction, and you want to merge it. I also want to show you how you get the Product Hunt API. You're going to go to api.producthunt.com, version 2 docs. I have the link in the description. So you're going to create a new token under developer token, and you're going to be able to pass that on. As I said earlier, you're just going to say bear space and then the token. That's it. Let's go ahead and test the workflow up until the storing into the G Sheet. What we're doing is pressing play on that node, and it's going to go up until that node. And here we have the results populated. Amazing, right? We have the date that we're scanning for, the business name, the email is not yet found. We're going to do this in the next step. The business link, the tagline that you get from the Product Hunt launch description, post link. Next up, we want to scrape each website from that list that we generated, and we're going to do that by going back to that G Sheet, and we're going to just get that tab that we're on, and we're going to eventually just loop over each item. It's going to scrape each website, and then ultimately we have to see whether the scraping was successful, because some websites actually prevent you from scraping them. So if the scraping was unsuccessful, then we just go back and go to the next item, right? And if it is true, then we're going to go to the next step of finding that email. Now, the finding of that email is going to work with an AI agent. If that AI agent does find an email, then it's going to go on to storing it and eventually be used for the marketing tasks. If not, then we're going to go back into the beginning and we're going to loop to the next item, right? So we have to have a set of steps that check if the crucial step has been performed ahead of time, right? Scraping is the most crucial. If it was successful, then you find that email. If that was found, then good, right? But if any of those steps fail, you want to go back. So again, you see there is some logic in place that you need to come up with that allows you to just create the agents in a sequential and logical manner. Let's go into the contact email extraction agent. So it's essentially an agent that comprises of a prompt, a brain as I call it, which basically is the model that we're using, and structured output. Essentially, whenever you're done with a task, you want to have a specific return from that AI agent. It says, the email is this. That's called structured output. Here we have the prompt, right? Like every time me as the hypothetical user, I would pass a prompt like I would in ChatGPT saying, here's my website content, do something with it. That do something with it is defined down here, and we're going to look in integrated detail. So this is the prompt. very simple, that says, I want you to analyze the HTML content I provided, and this is where you should be looking for the email. And ultimately, you need to output it in this format. The structured output that we referenced needs to be added both here and in that clause that I added later on. And here are just some considerations such that in the end, we make sure that we extract the email correctly. Let's go ahead and extract an email from one of the items. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to press play here. But before we do that, I want to give you a bit of a tip. Whenever you have these workflows running, you can quickly amass costs testing them. So a good way to prevent that is by pinning the items. So I did that earlier, and I refreshed my flow such that we have the data from before pinned down. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and run up until this point. We'll restore one of the emails. And you can see it started, it's going through, it's getting the results, and it's looping over them one by one. Something, and apparently found an email and stored it, so let's go check it out. And good, it did find an email, and here it is. So we know this step works. So let's now go into the juice of it all, really, which really is like any other human, in the sense that they would have a process that they need to follow to execute the tasks, right? So you have to think of it in that exact fashion, where you have the tools here be individual tasks, clearly defined. And I'm going to show you. So here's the master prompt. You telling this AI agent that you're assuming a certain role, specifically the entry-level marketing intelligence analyst. You have to be clear about that. And then you have to say that, well, your role is to do, the extraction of marketing intelligence from websites and coordinate specialized tools to generate actionable insights, right? So there's 3 tools here: the PH comment tool, the Reddit lead search tool, and the schema markup analysis tool. In a sense, I'm having this AI agent prepare me for a set of tasks. The focus here in this demo is the schema markup analysis tool. But since I'm going through the motions and I have other tools that I want to advertise and also socialize about this marketing agency that I've built, well, I might as well do the legwork, right? And this is the power of this AI marketing employee, right? It does the legwork for me with specific prompts that I give it. So I tell it, this is operational what you're going to do, right? You have like this first step, we call it PH comment tool. You'll process the website content I provide to you, and you'll generate an engaging comment suitable for Product Hunt. Then step 2, generating the marketing intelligence. In another video, I've showed you how I use Reddit to generate leads, right? The video is in the description. And in this case, I wanted to do the pre-work for me. I wanted to find the corresponding keywords and the threads that could act as leads where I can slot in my solution or engage in an organic manner, perhaps, right? And then finally, with a focus on this demo, is the analysis of the schema markup, right? And I say, well, you're going to use the schema markup analysis tool to analyze the JSON LD schema, and you're going to generate a proposed enhanced schema, right? And you're going to rationalize your improvements such that when you read through, you can say, well, okay, why was this done? And it explains to the person, because it is a highly technical aspect, this JSON LD schema markup, and you don't want to intimidate people when they have to perhaps even consider how they would go about this. And ultimately, there's like a data flow management, which is basically saying, you just have to go through the tools independently. And then finally, we'll output this, which is basically the name of the business and the status, which indicates awaiting response. There is some error handling in place, which ultimately you do need. If you do have, let's say, certain issues, you would have to figure out how to deal with it. One key setting I always have on is on retry on fail, and I have a max of 2 tries and 3 seconds, 3,000 milliseconds spaced in between, because there could be an error on the server side. The server may, let's say, not be receiving API calls for the AI agent. That's quite possible. It happens quite often. Let's go into one of the tools, specifically the one for generating the JSON LD. Now, this is essentially another workflow, right? This is the beauty about nesting automations on automations. You create an automation that can be reused again, and the way you do it is you set the trigger to when executed by another workflow. And let's just check it out. Really, over here, you have the example JSON input, right? And it's really like what you would output from one of the rows of the G sheet, right? So I just copied, pasted that into here such that there's an example which then we can use here when we pass in our input variable. So as you can see, me again, I'm the user passing in the scraped content that gets passed from the AI agent, the master AI agent. And over here, we have the master prompt for this particular task. So here's the prompt. Again, a specific task. We're telling it that you're going to be a structured data agent specializing in generating JSON LD schemas for SEO optimization. And ultimately, you're going to return an output that has the before and the after JSON LDs, the rationale for that recommended JSON LD, and the action items you need to undertake as a user. And here we've crafted a very thorough response that takes after schema.org's recommendation for generating schemas, right? Like there's specific fields that we have here, such as a title, description, so on and so forth, that are specified by that website. So as a result, we have the task being well defined here, where we get the particular code. So then we have the task broken down into subtasks, and it's a quite lengthy prompt, but overall you'll see that it then has the ability of generating really intelligent schemas. Okay, and it also validates them for us, and it also gives an example, which is recommended generally speaking. Then what happens is we also have an auto-fixing output parser, because this is a bit of a complicated schema that we have to work with. As you can see, you want to generate a 4-item output and you want these fields to be required. This is generally speaking the format for it. Now over here, this is like an innovation that helps you craft like beautiful HTML templates, right? You don't want to overload your AI agent with tasks. The AI agent could generate an HTML template for you, but the thing is, it's rather programmatic. So if you were to know, what the JSON output is from your AI agent, then you could use code, as we usually do, even in real life these days, to output the HTML template that you expect, right? So just slot in, the before JSON LD here and give it the CSS, so on and so forth, right? So I'm an advocate of using AI up to a point. Otherwise, you just rack up cost and complexity. And honestly, AI agents are not perfect, so you have to automate where possible without AI. Okay. And finally, what happens, and this is like the key part, this is where I start getting this interaction with this workflow, right? Like they are an employee, but because they may not be perfect, I need to see the output of their work every time. And I'm using this node called send and wait, right? And it's connected already to my email, and it's going to have the following operation. There's many that I could choose from. And it's going to send an email to my professional email address, and it's going to say I'm looking for approval for this business for the JSON LD. And it's going to start off saying, boss, do you approve the following email body? And then it's going to have 2 buttons that I can click on, either approve or disapprove. And the beautiful thing here is now we can use the text classifier, which is an LLM that says, okay, well, look for the approval status that came from the previous message. Was it approved or was it not? And it's going to determine that really easy task. And then ultimately, if it's not approved, it's going to go back to do it again and send me an email. But if it is, it's going to go ahead and send to my client, or rather to my prospective client, the email with that subject and also the message saying, what is it that I'm sending and why you need this. Let's go ahead and test the workflow. It's going to go through the product hunt data, and it's going to go ahead and get the results, which are in the sheet. Then it's going to start looping, scraping. If it successfully scrapes, which it did, passes it on to the contact email extraction step. That succeeded. Then you store that email. Then it's going to go to the marketing employee and just execute each of the tools one by one. The one we're focusing on is the JSON LT generator. Now we should have an email that has come to our inbox. And here it is, the approval for the Algebras AI business for their JSON LD. And it says, boss, do you approve? And it looks good. It seems that they don't have a JSON LD. And this is the proposal that we're going to send them. And checked their website, and actually this is what they're doing. So this is spot on by the artificial intelligence tool, and we approve. So now this window says, okay, got it, thank you. And let's go to our sent. Let's see. And we sent it off. Here it is, to this email address, hello@algebras.ai, sent by Find Leads Agency. I saw your product on lunch, this and that, and looks good. So now we should be getting more emails for the other JSON LD that are going to be detected, and this is going to just keep on going. So let's check our email again, and over here we can see an example from Head AI, and they actually have a JSON LD, which is a good job they're doing, and just makes like a tiny revision over here. Instead of having the offers, it mentions the contact point and then the context, which honestly, I would say their initial JSON LD is just as fine. And we're gonna go ahead and approve this, and it's gonna keep on going. It's gonna go through the list, it's gonna send the emails after they're approved, and eventually we're gonna be done with the tasks. Let's just see, here it is, sent out the email. Good, we're gonna be done with the task. I'm gonna get one last email saying, I'm done for the day. Finally, we have the workflow peak completed for the day, and we got an email here. Just says, boss, done with the JSON LD schema outreach for today. It's just to notify me that everything was done. And that was it. The workflow is available for purchase, and let me know what you think and what you would like to see next.